Julie and I are here in the hall at Mappington. It's Saturday, and it's been a terribly sad couple of days following the death of Queen Elizabeth, which is a momentous event for the UK. And we thought we would record this video today because we've decided that in the circumstances it wouldn't be right to put out our usual content. We thought that it would be better just to have a video which gave us an opportunity to reflect, perhaps for Julie also to talk a little bit about all of the role that she's playing in this, because you've been doing an astonishing number of interviews on different channels.
Yes.
And then maybe to mention a couple of things that have been happening at Mappington as well. Once this had happened, there was a protocol that fell into place quite quickly. And one of the things that churches were asked to do was to ring the bells at 12 o'clock yesterday. And so Julie and I went off into the church, and was it your first time ringing those bells?
I mean, I think it was the first time properly ringing them. I think I've had a little tug before, but first time properly ringing them and for, a reason. So, and for a reason, so.
And we tried to do it so there were 96 for each of her years, but I think we may have gone a few over or a few under, and I think the Queen would be okay with that.
Yeah, I think she would.
I think she'd be okay with that.
Yes, absolutely.
And then the other thing that happened this morning was that my father and I lit a candle in the church, which is something we often do in remembrance of people. And there's a little notice in the church with the candle. And my father had written a couple of sentences in remembrance of the Queen. So that was very nice as well.
Yes.
But Julie, tell us a little bit about what's been happening to you over this period. We're actually sitting very close to the chair where Julie has been live streaming across the world on all sorts of American networks.
So if you've been watching sort of my Instagram stories, you will almost recognize from my stories when I'm shooting them that way, the paneling around the room. We're in the same room, and there is my chair, we've got a light there, and this is where I've been doing all my interviews.
How will you remember Queen Elizabeth II's remarkable 70-year reign?
Well, I can really sum it up with somebody that I met today. He's in his 60s, British, and after learning the news of the death of the Queen, he said to me that from a young age, he had carried around a photo of the Queen in his wallet.
I think in total, I've done almost 30 over 2 days. This morning has been a little bit slower, but that's because there is a lot of, there's King Charles III was proclaimed king, and there was a lot of events and proclamations and seals and oaths and witnesses and signatures going on in London right now. So most networks are just live streaming that without patching in different commentators. But I was on CNN this morning, and then I'll be on MSNBC later today. So
there's an awful lot of ceremony that comes with the death of a monarch and the appointment of a new monarch. In fact, I'm rather taken aback by how much is actually happening. I know that all of this is organised decades in advance, and there's been a code, hasn't there, which is London Bridge.
London Bridge, yes. And I knew of that code. Did you know?
Yes, it was. I think I knew that code as well.
Yeah.
So all of these are plans that have been laid for years that are now being rolled out, and I think today we had the Earl Marshal, the Duke of Norfolk.
Yes.
And he was part of the ceremony with Prince Charles, or King Charles as he now is. It's going to be quite difficult to get used to that.
Also singing the national anthem.
Singing the national anthem, God Save the King. I mean, it was quite extraordinary hearing that for the first time.
I thought it was wonderful what Macron said, yesterday, saying for Great Britain, yes, she was considered our queen, but for the rest of the world, she is known as the Queen. And I thought that was perfectly put and really did speak volumes to how many lives she has touched, mostly indirectly, through her addresses and, through obviously her charities. But she has really, especially I think over the past couple of years with this pandemic in particular, the people of Great Britain pulled people together.
She has. She's been an absolute constant in all of our lives throughout all of the turmoil that we've seen, particularly in the last 50 years or so, which is the time that I've been on this planet. The Queen, as J.K. Rowling put it, has been the thread that weaves throughout our lives, and she's, in a way, she's more than a thread. She's a glue.
Yes.
And I think many of us feel a little unsettled because the Queen represents Britishness, perhaps to a greater degree than almost anyone or anything else. And I think particularly recently, as things have got terribly hard in the world, she's been that constant representation of Britishness. And without her doing that, it feels a little unsettling.
Yeah.
Having said that, it does feel as though King Charles is going to continue in the manner of his mother. His address yesterday, I think, was very carefully thought through, and it had lots of encouraging elements to it. And I don't know if you have any particular reflections. I've got a couple.
Well, I've had to commentate on, a whole host of different topics because they're changing every day. So, when the Queen first, when we first heard news that the Queen had died, it was more on her achievements. So commentating more on her achievements and her legacy. And now we've moved on to King Charles III. And so this morning was really about, in one sense, unpicking his address yesterday. And I thought it was rather wonderful, the paragraph that he dedicated, if you like, to the new Prince and Princess of Wales. And not just proclaiming that they would be given these new titles, but that he would be looking to them and the nation would be looking to them to lead the conversation.
Lead the national conversation. And I think what that spoke to was a recognition that actually he is now of the older generation, and that the nation's conversation is going to be increasingly happening around people of Kate and William's generation. And I think also it spoke to the fact that whilst he's been Prince of Wales, he's also been able to contribute to that conversation in a way that he can't now that he's king. So he's obviously been very outspoken on really important areas like the environment, like farming, like ecology, like global warming. And those are things that he now, as king, will be unable to speak about publicly. He'll be able, in private, he'll be able to press the Prime Minister because they have weekly meetings, and he'll be able to speak his mind there. And I hope he does, because they're all terribly important issues. But it's now over to William to lead the conversation more openly, which he can do as Prince of Wales. So I thought that was very important. There was a sort of acknowledgement that that's now a new role. I thought there was also real emotion in his speech.
There was.
And it felt...
I haven't seen that before.
He was... The Queen was, I think, very good always at, well, almost always at guarding her emotions. And King Charles feels like he'll be just a little bit more open, which is a positive thing.
It is. You saw yesterday, the footage went global of when he came to Buckingham Palace to greet the public there. A woman reached out and grabbed him and kissed him, and he
accepted it, didn't he?
Yeah.
The Queen would have stepped back, understandably, if that had ever happened, and I think that was really telling, an important moment that King Charles is going to lean forward into his subjects and into his role with love as well. He used that word a lot.
With his address yesterday and also today at St. James's Palace, he's mentioned twice his beloved darling wife Camilla. And I also think that's incredibly important that he has been putting her into his addresses because of, because we know how that relationship came to be. And I commentate on that all the time. As you know, I did a 6-part, many of you have seen it, the 6-part documentary that I did for CNN Originals on Diana. And I think he has to put that behind him in order for him to reign and include her. And the Queen's wishes in February, the statement that she put out was that her wish was that we would accept Camilla as the Queen Consort, and making sure that Camilla is a part of his reign is very important. He must have her, they've been together 17 years now, married for 17 years.
Yes, which is a long marriage.
Yes, long marriage. Yeah.
As long as us.
No, I mean, we're a little bit longer, but yes.
Almost as long as us. No, I thought that was astonishing. And one of the most extraordinary aspects of all of this is the way that the Queen has put her house in order. She brought Camilla in as Queen Consort, as you say, only recently. And she managed, only last week, to say goodbye to Boris and to welcome...
this week.
Technically this week. And to welcome Liz Truss as the new Prime Minister. And there she was, standing, smiling, engaging, astonishing, really.
Yeah,
she completed her work. And I know that many people have commentated on this, but I do think it's the most astonishing thing. And to have gone so quickly, to have passed so quickly, and one assumes painlessly, in a way, it was the best sort of way for her.
Yes. Rather than having weeks or more hospital visits or stay in hospitals.
And also, for so often, people at that age, they have a long period of infirmity. And some of your memories of them are from that period of infirmity. And actually, our last memories of the Queen are standing up with the Prime Minister.
Yes.
2 days before?
Yeah, rather extraordinary.
Wasn't that absolutely astonishing?
Yeah.
Can I just say that Julie has been doing an amazing job of commentating. She's had it absolutely back to back for the last couple of days.
It has been.
She's sometimes been on one network while another network is desperately trying to call through on her computer to bring her in live, and she's had to juggle all of that, which was extraordinary. And I just also wanted to say one other thing, which was that yesterday we had a very important event at Mappington, and I did think about whether the right thing to do was to postpone the event. Certainly there are a lot of events that have been postponed. But I did think about what the Queen would have wanted. And I think she'd have wanted us to have kept calm and carried on. And so we did. And we released new life into Mappington yesterday.
Right. Very exciting.
With the arrival of our 2 beavers, who are now busy exploring the woodland. And it was a lovely event. We had about 30 people, 20 or 30 people coming to it. And on a very somber day, it was a rather uplifting moment.
That is when I really started to shed the tears, when the beaver, I filmed it, you probably have seen it on my Instagram, came right up to me. And I was hidden because we had to be very quiet not to spook them or frighten them. And so we were all whispering. And I found a spot that I was really covered and hidden by a branch. But the beaver managed to come a foot or 2 away from me. And that's when the tears came. I suspect they were also combined with tears of a little bit of exhaustion, lack of sleep, and the Queen,
the Queen, of course. And in fact, there are a number of people who shed a tear, and it was the right thing in that circumstance. Anyway, thank you all for listening to us. Please feel free to put some comments and questions, if you like, down below.
We will get to them. It's just been a little bit...
Yes, we're a little behind on answering at the moment, simply because of the volume of other things.
Yes, and we have tomorrow, which we aren't cancelling. We have an enormous our autumn plant fair here. And
I think the call time for that is 5:30.
Yeah, so
for some of us.
That would be me. So we've just been incredibly busy here. Well, in particular, me trying to manage my time. So we will get to those comments. But I was able to get in an hour yoga session today. So I went on CNN this morning, and that was I was on at 8:40. I was off at 8:48. I ran downstairs, rolled up my mat. I told my teacher that his classes are usually almost 2 hours. I said I can only stay for an hour. I did my class from 9, but then he sort of convinced me to stay until 10:06. I got off at 10:06, and I was back on it. I needed to be back on at 10:20. I had my dress down there. I put the dress on, brushed my hair, came into the chair, and logged on. That's how important yoga is for me. I have to be able to fit it in. Thank you all so much, and have a wonderful, restful weekend.